Right, from the top. Sorry about that, guys. Let's just get back to the beginning. A little rewind. Hello and welcome to the Space Update. Coming up on today's show, we're talking ABL Systems, landed a multi-million dollar contract with Lockheed Martin, updates on Starship, and all that and more coming up in the show. But first, I just want to say a big thank you to all our Patreon supporters here at Total Space. We've got Marco listening in, Susie, Warhawk over there chatting away on the YouTube stream there, and everyone else listening in on Discord. And we've got Kage listening in from Becoming Multiplanetary as well. Thank you very much. If you would like to support what we do, head over to patreon.com/total space, where you can get early access to episodes, chat with special guests right here on Discord in our community, and lots of other exclusive content. That's patreon.com/total space. Now, without further ado, hopefully not too many more technical problems, let's get started with the show. I'm your host, Ryan, and joining me today is...
I'm Mikko, the host of Deep Dive Fridays.
Let's just jump straight into it, Miko. As we were just saying just before we noticed that little technical glitch there. Lockheed Martin, ABL, let's just kick off with that. Lockheed Martin has signed a contract with small launch provider ABL Space Systems for 58 launches over the next decade. A deal is potentially worth several $100 million. ABL Systems, we talked about them previously. ABL Systems, a little small launch provider, American company, and Lockheed Martin have, as said, they just invested hundreds of $millions to essentially prop them up for military launches and the likes for here in the UK and up in Florida, launches in Florida, NASA wallops and everywhere. So it's quite an interesting one, a bit unusual that they're bringing a small launcher to the UK when there's already quite a few small launches in the UK, but albeit it's all good news anyway, having more launches any launches in the UK, because we haven't seen anything since the Black Arrow project. But the contract was announced on Monday, the 5th of April, just earlier on in the week, and covers 26 launches of ABL's RS-1 rocket from now until the end of 2025. And the additional 32 launches will run from 2026 to 2029. So quite a long contract, really spanning over the next 8 years or so. Those launches would take place from any of the several potential locations. I've just said a few there, but just to run through them: Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Vandenberg Air Force Base, and Shetland Space Centre, which is one under development here in the UK. The company's declined to disclose the total value of the actual contract itself, albeit Lockheed are quite secretive and everything. ABL lists a price for the launch of the rocket at $12 million for the RS-1 rocket, which put the total value of the contract at around $696 million if Lockheed orders all 58 launches at that price. But such a bulk price would usually offer some kind of level of discount there. But quite a reasonably priced launch system, and it's quite an interesting contract that. So and everything with a small launcher. But if you want to compare it to the likes of say Rocket Lab, their launch system's about $7 million. But if you compare ABL and Electron side by side, although it's 12 million to 7, Rocket Lab's rocket can only actually launch around upwards of 350 to 375 kilogram, whereas the ABL launch system can launch upwards of 1,350 kilograms, so considerably more, bigger rocket overall. So when you think the cost per million, if you like, it is good value for money. Especially when you compare it to Electron's 7 million, everything. But what do you make of that, Miko? A good little small launcher and everything. We've seen the likes of ESA investing in Orbix and Skyroar. Good friends of ours have been, some of them been on the podcast and everything. But what do you make of that one?
Yeah, I think the price seems to be around in the right place. there will be so many small sat companies that I'm not sure if there is market for all of them. I mean, I hope there will be, because it's always cool to see new rockets flying and being developed.
Yeah, it all seems to be all the rage at the moment because obviously, wind back, well, even if you wind back 5 years or so, it was all the big rockets, Rocket Lab, sorry, SpaceX, ULA, and everything. All the big rockets, and very, very few small launches, barring maybe the odd handful from Ariane Space and like there's some of the stuff that China and Roscosmos launch and everything. But in the past 5 years or so, it's just absolutely took off, and obviously got Orbix and Skyrara coming online next year. Other small launch providers here in the UK and everything, and also, as I mentioned there, ABL Systems are coming over to the UK to launch up in the Shetland Islands there as well, via Lockheed Martin through this contract as well. So very crowded market, but there's lots of companies out there, and universities and micro and nano satellites, and even micro nano satellites. Some of them are even the size of a slice of bread. Some of them, I think, just crazy small. Some of the
Yeah,
technology that we've seen out there now. So although we've seen some small rockets, the technology is getting smaller, and it's also coming to the point where we're doing ride shares, and we're seeing the likes of Transporter One do it with SpaceX doing various launches and everything like that. But it's exciting to
yeah,
see a lot more small launches come to the market, and ABL Systems, one of many, really, and that's really exciting.
yeah. And especially launchers coming to launch from Europe.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
speaking of small launchers, I actually listened to the audiobook by Eric Berger, who released it this year, and it was about the early days of SpaceX. Very interesting story. I would recommend listening or reading that book.
yeah, definitely want to check out that one. And also, just yesterday that happened. That one, I just have to double check my notes there. Orion's NASA spacecraft that will be launching at the top of the SLS rocket took a splash in the pool, all in the name of science. That will be the crew vehicle for the SLS Artemis program and everything. Be the largest crew vehicle within reason that's ever been designed since probably just like the Apollo era, if you like. No spacecraft currently in production as the technology needed for the extremes of deep space, such as life support, navigation, communications, radiation shielding, and essentially the world's largest heat shield. But I mean, to put it in comparison, the Dragon module, I believe, is about 3.7 meters wide if you want to go by the width. But the Orion capsule is just over 5 meters. So if you take that in comparison, it's considerably bigger. And as advanced as the Dragon module is, it's not designed for deep space, as everyone is quite a big fan of the Dragon module from SpaceX. But quite interesting. They just done a gentle splash in the pool, but that was all to calibrate all these systems prior to further testing and flight. And that was just a test module. It wasn't the actual one that would be put aloft on the SLS rocket. But SLS, NASA's Langley Research Center in Hampton, Virginia, at 2 o'clock Eastern time, or six o'clock yesterday. It was released from a height of around 7 feet or 2 meters, and only fell for around about a second or two before it splashed in the water. The Orion capsule. The drop test is part of the series of tests NASA began in March the 23rd to finalize computer models for loads and structures prior to the Artemis 2 flight test. NASA's first mission with crew aboard the actual Orion capsule. The Orion spacecraft is designed to launch astronauts to the moon, NASA's Artemis program, as I said earlier, and it could potentially be used to carry astronauts to other destinations beyond Earth's orbit. But obviously, we've got the Starship in production and everything like that. So, will that come online? Who knows? But it's all up in the air at the moment, as we all know. But it'd be interesting to see how the two programs side by side develop as time goes on. But a fun fact, we said the sizes of some of the other modules there, but just to run through some of the ones alongside Orion and Dragon. Orion at 5 meters in width, which would be the largest, and then as you go down, Starliner will come in at second at around 4.5 meters wide. So Starliner is actually quite a big crew module, despite it not being actually flown yet and everything. And then we've got the Dragon module there in at 3.7 meters, and then the Soyuz MS module, crew module that's been used for many years. Quite sturdy rocket and everything. That one's actually only about 2.7 meters wide. That one's so quite cramped, as we've seen for some of the footage from the launches there. It's literally cramped in like a bunch of sardines in that module and everything. And just staying with the theme of the SLS, we've seen some further testing of those RS-25 engines out to the Stennis Centre, where they've been recently testing the actual core stage of the SLS. So further development, interestingly, keeping it a little bit low key on those RS-25 engines. Potentially doing some further testing just to check out those 40-year-old engines. But it's a bit strange how they're still trying to develop a 40-year-old engine. I mean, it's kind of like you got to think, how much can you develop a 40-year-old engine before you essentially create an entirely new one? So whether they rename that eventually the RS-25B or something like that, which I think they should do. But did you manage
I
to
do
catch
think
that?
they actually have a name for it. I think
Mhm.
it's RS-25E, as in expendable,
Yeah,
and
but
it will be flying after the space shuttle main engines have been used up.
yeah, I mean they say expendable, but they're reusable, aren't they?
Not the new
Within
ones. They
reason.
are
Yeah,
specifically making them cheaper and not as reusable.
yeah. Well, that's the theory. But whether we'll wait and see on that one, because they spent throwing that much money on it. I'm not surprised if they'll try and fish as
Yeah.
much as they can out the water. I think with that, but you never know. They might just make it expendable. But I think with
Yeah.
the amount of money they're throwing at it, they might try and at least save something from it. 'Cause we've seen the likes of SpaceX drop things in the sea, like the fairings and everything, scoop them up, clean them up, and then fire them back out on the next
Yeah.
launch kind of thing. But
Yeah.
quite interesting that still developing that RS-25 engine. Good solid engine, obviously, but just a bit odd that they haven't essentially come up with something different. But in a way, if it works, why recreate it, kind of thing, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah. Engine development is not fast.
and as we,
SpaceX was probably the fastest company to develop an engine,
yeah,
and it still took about 3 years.
and I mean the Raptor engine's still not perfect, obviously, as we've seen. And just to jump onto the SpaceX theme of SpaceX, we just seen their crew module just moved from one docking port to another on the International Space Station on Monday, marking the start of a busy month of spacecraft arrivals and departures on the International Space Station. We also saw the Russian Soyuz do this last week, but this was a first for the actual Dragon module and Crew One to do that undocking and redocking. Due to the lack of ports where certain cargo is located and everything, and on the International Space Station, they have to do a bit of logistics, bit of a move around and everything for all the, I believe, Crew 2's launching fairly soon and everything.
April 22nd.
Yeah, later on this month and everything. So bit of a rejig waiting for them. Obviously, I put the question to the guys at NASA, and they pretty much held their hands up and said we need more ports, essentially on the International Space Station, because it just becomes, as we've seen, a nightmare. They've literally had to move the Soyuz module, they've had to move the Dragon module to another part of the space station for more cargo coming up. So it's a very busy station by the sounds of it, from what we've seen as of late.
Yeah.
But
I think I heard this was due to the new solar panel installation when the Crew Dragon arrives. So
yeah,
the port where the crew is, it wouldn't have been good for the solar panel installs, because I think the Canada arm wouldn't have been able to grab the solar panels from the trunk.
Yeah, I think it was part that, and partly just needed to
And yeah, other
logistics
things
just
too.
moves things around as well. But it's always quite majestic watching them just maneuver and everything with the RCS thrusters. Just you think of these modules, God knows how many tons of bulk of metal, and you just see them majestically just floating around, just thousands and thousands of miles or kilometers an hour, if you like, just floating around the Earth. It just effortlessly, just absolutely amazing. I don't know, did you manage to watch it live when it was streaming, Miko?
Yeah.
Yeah, but quite interesting when I was watching the Soyuz one. Some of the debris out of the RS thrusters was just bouncing off some of the cameras, like whether that was a build-up of ice or some other material. It's quite interesting to see the RCS thrusters on some of those, and it's blowing debris
Yeah.
onto the cameras and everything. It's quite interesting, that one.
Yeah,
But
I remember about a year or two ago, Soyuz made another port relocation, and it was much faster than the one with SpaceX. I think it was only about 10 to 15 minutes, and we
yeah,
were
one
actually,
one dock, get it round there, get it
yeah.
back on. No messing around.
But Soyuz is very much a proven and tested vehicle.
Yeah. That's all really amazing, and hopefully in the near future, a lot more ports and additional modules as well. Rumored on the International Space Station in the coming years, and hopefully keep that going and everything. But now for SpaceX back on the ground, we've literally had another Starlink launch, number 23, I believe, and seventh reuse and landing of a booster. So another 60 Starlink satellites in orbit now, and maybe some service in over in Finland where you are, Miko, potentially.
Yeah, actually, there was I think it was via satellite convention where Gwen Shotwell, is she the president of SpaceX? Well, she was talking about Starlink. I think they will need about 28 launches, so not too many more to get full coverage around the world.
Yeah.
And they are starting the polar launches as well.
Mhm.
She also told something about the prices of the terminals, and they used to be around 3,000 each. Currently,
Yeah,
they are about $1,500 each. So basically, SpaceX pays 2/3 of the cost still, but
yeah.
they
So
expect it to lower down to a few $100 within a couple of years.
yeah, and you've got your name and deposit down for that when it actually comes out. Have you received any updates on when you might be getting it and everything?
No updates. I
Uh,
think it was late last year or just 2022 what they mentioned.
quite exciting, and also
Yeah.
obviously when that comes online, you'll keep us all updated, Miko, on how it's going and everything. But we've also received a bit of an update on Elon from on that SN11 flight. I think a few of you might have already seen this, but Elon tweeted the ascent phase transition to horizontal and controls in the free fall were good. A relatively small CH4 leak led to fire on engine 2 and fired part of the avionics, causing a hard start on that engine just prior to the landing burn and everything. This is getting fixed 6 ways to Sunday at the very end of that one, which
Yeah.
made me laugh at. But I think we've pretty much seen that engine fail on the way up, because when you see that little fire on the launch, I don't know if you've seen at the engine bay on SN11, you just see like a little spark go across. I don't know whether it's the glint of the light or anything, but you just start seeing a little fire going on there, and then just little chunks of metal just slowly falling out. So it's pretty another engine just eating its way to death on the way up by the looks of it, which is a bit of a shame, really. But it seems to be the engines that are pretty much dogging down the development of Starship at the moment, considering everything else is within reason working effortlessly, isn't it?
Yeah, and I do think SN15 already had some fixes for this, so they may not need to do many fixes they haven't already implemented.
Yeah, I mean,
And
SM15 stated to have 100 plus or even, possibly even more solutions to the header tanks, the thrust buck, and various other avionics upgrades and fuel lines and everything else. So, in theory, we might see quicker turnarounds for the static fires that we see, whereas in not previous years, previous weeks or months ago, we were waiting around for God knows how long just for a static fire. But as of late, it's just picking up the pace as they develop and learn a lot more. So hopefully, SM15, once they begin testing that, it might be just static fire within a day or so, and then a flight literally the next day. Hopefully, if all those upgrades proves they're worthwhile and everything, so it'd be absolutely fantastic to see. And also, we've seen some on the Boca Chica site some recent upgrades to the ground systems equipment, and some actual tank the developments of the tank farm and everything. Some actual, well, not water towers, but I suppose fuel towers and everything going in.
yeah, it was a
Look like mini starships.
Starship Imposter.
Yeah, Starship Imposter. A good name, that one. But they're essentially just using the same materials, which it makes sense really, just using the same materials to develop the ground system equipment for all the essentially storing all the fuel right there next to the pad and everything. But a lot of developments coming to the Boca Chica site, as we've seen on some of the actual plans for development and everything. New tank farm, new launch pads, and the whole works really. So we'll see a lot happen in that little tiny, I think it's like 50 acres of land or something like that. Just not that large considering what they're actually building there and everything like that, and what they're launching. It's all quite confined to a small area. So
Yeah,
pretty risky
yeah,
considering SN11 blew up with quite possibly 25% of its fuel up there, and we're heading towards the super heavy booster testings, which is going to be a bit nerve-wracking considering how much fuel that thing's going to need. And if a fuel line ruptures on that thing, it'll just be absolutely mental
yeah,
if it
yeah,
explodes. So if you think SN11's explosion was big, wait until you see a failed super heavy booster. It'll be run for the hills and carry on going kind of thing, I think.
yeah. I mean, I kind of think they will only do a small hop to test it out, like 150-meter hop, and then for the second flight they may actually try to do an orbital launch with a Starship SN15 plus.
Yeah, yeah,
Why
yeah.
not?
I know. Yeah, why not? I mean, we've seen the little hopper. I imagine it'll probably just do like the little hopper done just up 150 meters, shift a little bit, and then land straight back down. Just do a little mini hop, like you say, and that should be enough. And then the main test will be landing it to the likes of the Falcon 9 with the those humongous grid fins. I've got to say, it's absolutely insane the size of those. I can't remember off the top of my head the actual size of them, but I think they were at least 10 feet in length or something like that, I believe, the grid fins, or maybe a bit longer than that if I'm mistaken.
Yeah, a bit longer. I do have to speak in metric, but I think around 3 to 4 meters in length
Yeah,
at
yeah,
least.
yeah. And obviously, the final destination for Starship is Mars, but up there currently is Curiosity and Perseverance. But aboard Perseverance was little Ingenuity, who's now fully deployed on the Mars surface and ready and raring to go. NASA is targeting no earlier than Sunday, April 11th, for the Ingenuity Mars helicopter's first attempt at powered controlled flight on another planet. To mark a month of Ingenuity flights, the agency will host several events to bring people along for the ride. And I believe they're going to try and live stream it at 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time Monday. So a bit of an early one for you guys over in America over there. A bit more of a reasonable time here in the UK. A bit more early to late morning for us. A bit easier for you, Miko, because you're an hour ahead of me, I think. But that'll be all live streamed on Monday. So hopefully, fingers crossed for that flight of Ingenuity. But
Yeah.
actually got little cameras aboard that one. Ingenuity arrived on the Mars Jezero crater along with Perseverance just back in February 18th. Seems so long ago now. And it was attached to the belly of Perseverance rover. The helicopter is a technology demonstration, so it's not actually within reason. It's not necessarily going to look or to test anything as such. Purely a demonstration. It's going to fly for a minute or two, and they're just going to try and use it as much as they possibly can at the end of the day, just to get as many flights, as much data as they can for a bigger and better um, helicopter of some sort on the face of Mars. Because obviously we've seen the damage the Mars surface can do to the likes of Curiosity. These little wheels absolutely shredded to bits. Obviously, Perseverance has only just got there, so it's all new and shiny at the moment. But give it a few months to a year, and it'll be looking just as old and rusty and everything. So it'd be quite interesting
Yeah.
to see something like maybe in 5 to 10 years' time, maybe something like a mini quadcopter of some sort, whether it drops off a rover or picks it up and carries it 100 miles, drop it off, and picks up another one, take it to a different point of interest on Mars. It should be absolutely game changing, really, if they can utilize powered flight on Mars and everything. But you'll be tuning in to watch that one in the early hours of Monday, Miko.
Absolutely, if I am not working at the moment.
Yeah, I
Maybe,
believe
yeah,
I'll be off that week, so luckily, so I've got an
nice.
excuse to watch it. This
Yeah,
but
but definitely I'll try to at least listen it on the background.
yeah. But I mentioned this last week, but it's actually got a piece of fabric from the Wright brothers' first flight of essentially the first built aircraft of any kind in the world. I've got a piece of that fabric hidden, tucked away in Ingenuity. So it's an amazing little nod to the first powered flight of any kind on the face of Earth. Is a little piece of it's tucked away in Ingenuity, or the very first flight on another. It was built on Earth, fired on a rocket all the way up to Mars, and it would be the very first flight on the face of another planet up there on Mars, which is absolutely amazing, to be honest, when you think of the technological feat to physically do that, to put it up on the rover in the payload on the rocket, get that Perseverance rover to land there, deploy it safely and effectively, and as they're doing now, prepping the little helicopter for flight and everything, and then testing that flight, and just absolutely insane when you genuinely think about it, how far away Mars is and everything like that. But absolutely amazing, and lots more to come from that. And they actually got cameras aboard the little Ingenuity helicopter there, so we might actually get some actual aerial footage of the little Ingenuity looking down on Perseverance, a little bird's eye view there. So that'll be quite interesting to see that.
Yeah, that will be pretty special.
Yeah. And is there anything else you want to just mention before we wrap up, Miko? Has you got anything coming up later this week, show-wise, or anything like that?
Yeah, I did have a chat with Chabolsk, who is one of the space community members, and
Yeah.
we will be releasing first part probably this Friday and the second part next week. And
Yeah.
we did talk about future lunar architecture and lunar energy production. Pretty interesting conversation.
Awesome. Watch out for that one, guys. And I don't know if Kage wants to come in here, but we've got a collaboration with To the Future at the moment. obviously some of you guys might have heard of them here on YouTube and everything. We've got a collaboration going on with them. They've done the first episode, so head on over to the Future to watch the first episode in that series. Essentially, starting from the early days of space flight, and then jumping through the history all the way to essentially the hypothetical future of space and what it could be and what within reason what we'd like to see. I think, but and we'll be bringing you the second episode very, very soon, which will cover the next step, following on from the early space flight days. So we'll be going into
Yeah,
the likes of
it's
Apollo and
it's
everything like
mostly
that.
about the space race.
Yeah, essentially the space race. Yeah, but absolutely fantastic collaboration with To the Future. So watch out for that episode coming from Becoming Multiplanetary and everything.
Yeah, it was a great episode.
Yeah. But thanks for joining us on this week's episode, guys. I've been Ryan at the Space Update.
I've been Mikko, the host of Deep Dive Fridays.
And you can also listen to the show on the road over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. We've also got our website, totalspace.net. You can find all the podcasts up there and links to all the awesome merch that we've got up there as well. Be part of the Miko fan club, the Become Multiplanetary Club, and eventually the Total
Or
Space
coffee
Network.
cup.
And I'll eventually get my own stuff up there. Look at that mug. Get one of those from up there. And we're also over on Twitter. I'm at the Space Update. And also we're all on at Total Space Net up there over on Twitter. So any updates and everything, you'll find us up there tweeting away and everything. And I believe you're up there on there as well, Miko. What's your Twitter handle up there?
My Twitter handle is Mikoske, Mikoske.
Yeah, you can find Miko up there tweeting away and everything. And as always, like, subscribe here on YouTube for all the latest updates. And that's next episode in the collaboration with To the Future. And I've been Ryan from the Space Update. Hope you've enjoyed today's show, despite the slight glitches at the beginning there. And I'll catch you next week for all the latest space news. Thanks, guys.